Bonsoir, dear friends. This is JCB Live. This is happy hour and a very special happy hour today. First and foremost, we're celebrating today the independence of the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. For that reason, woo! I'm opening a wonderful French wine to honor the greatest friend of France, America, and the forever friendship of two of the most amazing nations. Today we are here in Napa Valley, in one of the most beautiful places on earth and in the galaxy. And we have a very unique special guest. The guest today has had an enormous influence into what Napa Valley and Sonoma Valley is all about. In a nutshell, the wine country, but at the same time, everything happening in the North Coast. He is a family man. He gave birth to two irresistible children. His wife, Janet, is a fabulous nurse. He's been serving America for many, many decades. He's a community man. He's an inspiration. He's charismatic. Started as a winemaker, no accident in life. And I had the pleasure to meet Mike. It was love at first sight. And he is our fantastic Congressman. So ladies and gentlemen, for the 4th of July, for the key moment of American history, I would like to welcome Mr. Mike Thompson. There he is.
Charles. Great to be with you.
Fabulous, Mike, to be with you. And thank you so much. So we got to start.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July. So what does 4th of July means to you, Mike? Because I know you have a lot to say about this topic.
Well, you know how I feel about this great country in which we're so blessed to live. And 4th of July says it all. We're a wonderful country, and we fought hard to get where we are today. And we all have to respect and love the great country that we're part of. And at the same time, we have to continue to fight to make it a better country, a country that everyone is able to get ahead, have opportunities, the same opportunities that you and I had growing up, although we grew up in different countries, but it's all about opportunity, and you know that.
Very right.
Americans all need access to opportunity to be able to enjoy and to contribute to this fabulous country that we're so fortunate and so blessed to be part of.
Exactly. And well, further to that, define, Mike, what to you makes America such a great place to be? Because I will give you my definition afterwards, but you as an American, so welcoming, so hospitable, and obviously so embracing, you really present the America that I love.
Well, you know, it's been said that this is a great experiment that we're living in the United States of America, and I think that's accurate. And that's why it's so important to continue to fuel the fires that make it such a great country. And it's clearly the people of the United States of America from day number one. It's the people that have made this the great country that it is. And that's why it's so important that we continue to invest in the people of America.
I fully agree with you. And Mike, no one represents better the wine country than you. You were born in Napa Valley, is it true?
I was born in St. Helena. I was born at the St. Helena Hospital. At the time, it was called the St. Helena Sanitarium. Those of us who've been around here a long time, we still refer to it as the San. Born here, grew up here, still live here. My wife, Jan, whom you know, is a nurse at the St. Helena Hospital today. She's there working today. We've had one of our sons was born there, and one of our granddaughters was born there.
That's amazing. So how it is today that you run this amazing entire North Coast and born as Napa Valley, how did you see it evolve, and how great is Napa Valley today to you?
Oh, I think Napa Valley is the most beautiful place on the face of the earth. And I may be a little bit biased, But you know, you may have been there when she said this, but Nancy Pelosi was at one of my events one year,
Yes.
and she said, every member of Congress believes that their district is the greatest district in the country. She said, but we're here today with Mike Thompson, who knows his district is the best. and it's a wonderful place. You know, the people are great, the community's great. It's such a thoughtful and charitable community in which we live. Whenever there's a problem, you know, you better get out of the way, or you're going to get run over by somebody trying to step forward to help. And that's a pretty neat place to be.
And how was it for you to be born here, to still be here, run the region? Because I believe you started as a winemaker.
Well, I started working in the wineries. I never achieved that place in notoriety. But I worked for Beringer Winery. I worked for the co-op. My first job, as a matter of fact, when I got back from Vietnam, was working the harvest at the co-op winery, which is now the Hall Winery on St. Helena Highway. That's so right. And now, as you know, I grow grapes, and when I was born, I was brought home to the house where we lived was on the McCrae's Ranch, and that's Stony Hill Winery, the great Chardonnay. And my father was the vineyard manager, the first vineyard manager that Fred and Eleanor McCrae had. And then his father and mother owned a vineyard in the heart of St. Helena, which is now the Bartolucci family vineyard, which grows an outstanding Cabernet grape. So I've been around wine all my life, and I refer to it as the wine community.
That's right.
It's something that I've never seen before, and I realized that when I was working at Beringer Winery, if anybody in the valley, winemaker, grape grower, whatever, if they found the proverbial silver bullet to deal with a problem or to make the product better, it was a secret for about 5 seconds. It was shared throughout the community because everybody knows that we all need to do well or none of us do well.
That's very true. And that's a great saying and the great inspirational, phrase for the world in general. We all got to do well and everybody does well. So talking about a lot of your friends, I'm very close with the Raymond family. You met them at Beringer at the time and you've been friends forever. So we should have a toast with the first wine. Don't you
What's
think?
The first wine?
Well, that's the Raymond Zinfandel, maybe. We'll go with the original, most well-known American grapes around the world besides Cabernet and Chardonnay that is really grown magically in California, which is Zinfandel.
Well, Jean-Charles, I grew up right across the street from the Raymond family. So I've known, Walter and Roy are the two brothers that are still alive. I've known them for as long as I've known anybody in my life. And I knew their parents, and I used to spend a lot of time walking across the street to, visit that family. And was, Walter and Roy they were the proverbial big men on campus, great athletes, student leaders. So that was cool to be able to associate with someone like that. And the parents were fantastic,
For sure. So well, and that's where I am right now. I'm at the Raymond family, which is very exciting. In fact, you mentioned the Bartolucci, and you probably know a few years ago, we acquired that vineyard in St. Helena, and we're very excited about it because, as you said, prime land and very unique. We decided, though, for you today to taste a wine which is not the obvious, but really represent Raymond and your friends and history, who actually salute you because they're with us today online. And the original wine grape of America, which is Zinfandel. So cheers, Mike, to all that you do for Napa Valley. So give us a little description. We want to hear from our Congressman describing wine with his own words.
Well, that's a very good wine, and you're right. Zinfandel is America's wine, and certainly a California favorite. This wine, like all of the Raymond wines from conception to now, is one that will, I gladly put this up against any wine in the world. Always consistent, just a fabulous wine. It would pair well with a number of different meals. I think I opened this bottle to taste with you, but I think I'm going to make a risotto tonight and have this wine with it, a wild mushroom risotto.
Well, you should talk about this because you do an amazing event for the entire community that you actually cook yourself, and you invite, I believe, 600, 700, 800 people every year. So why don't you share that unique moment, because that brings up your upbringing in Santa Helena and Napa Valley and the community together. It's fantastic. I was so excited to participate.
Well, you know, I think food and wine are very, very important. Before this Zoom that we're doing, I did a Zoom earlier today with a group of pastors from throughout the North Bay, dealing with the issue of hunger in our area, hunger throughout the country. And without food, it's a non-starter. I mean, you go no place. Food is very, very important. We're blessed. We're able to enjoy it. We can go into the kitchen and make a nice meal and sit down with our family. But there's still people that are around the world and right here at home that are going to bed without a meal. So I've always thought food was important. Growing up in an Italian family, don't let the last name fool you. My grandmother's first generation from Italy. My grandfather was born in Italy and immigrated to the United States. But food has always been important, and I try and incorporate food and wine in my events when I do them. So you've been to a number of them. I do a lot of pasta feeds, and it's a great way to bring people together and to break bread and just get to know each other. And that's a big an important part of having a successful anything. And that's being able to get together with people, know one another, work through your problems, figure out how to solve issues. And the closer you can get to someone, the better you know them and understand them, the more successful I believe that you'll be.
And you're an amazing listener, and I admire you serving the risotto or at many, many community events. And not only you listen, but you act. Where did Mike Thompson get this great willingness to serve? And how could that inspire others right now that are really looking into maybe redefining their lives, their priorities, facing major challenge and changing course? Give us your experience and advise others.
Well, it's pretty simple, Jean-Charles. I think the institution of representative government is important. And I think it is necessary for everyone to participate at one level or another. Yeah. And your comfort level may be that you vote at every election, which is incredibly important. Yes. Maybe you're more interested and you want to get involved and you want to volunteer in an office or work on an issue that's before the city council, the board of supervisors, Congress, or the state legislature. It is just extremely important that we all participate. The government is us. And I believe it needs to be left in a better position than the government that we acquired from those before us. So that pretty much my whole motivation was to do everything I could to enhance the institution of representative government so it best serves the people, in this case, my district. And it's all about the people. As I said earlier, that's what makes our country great. It's what makes our county great. That's what makes the wine community great. And we need a government that is as great as our people.
That's for sure. So how did that passion for you came about? How did you realize, Mike, yourself, that you had this within you and decided to go for it?
Well, I had a situation when I worked for the winery, when I worked for Behringer Winery, and I was hired by Roy Raymond, Roy Jr.
Oh,
and one of the things that I did is I worked with the labor force, and I had a guy who had worked for the winery forever. He worked for the Behringer family before that, and he was taken advantage of by someone in a business in the valley. And I went in his defense to talk about to the business owner and to complain about how he was treated. And I felt he needed a refund. And the business owner told me that I shouldn't worry about it, that he was only a Mexican. And that's not what our country is about. And I had just gotten back from Vietnam. I served there with the 173rd Airborne Brigade. I was wounded, and it was a real eye opener for me, because that's not why I put on the uniform, and that's not why I served, put my life on the line.
Yeah.
I served so everybody would have an opportunity, and no one would be treated like that or discriminated like that. And then that's when I decided that I needed to do something about it. And I went back to school and finished my education, got a couple of degrees, and started working in the public sector. And later ran for office and was elected to the Senate, and subsequent to that, to the Congress.
So how many years has it been now?
Well, this is my 22nd year in Congress. I served 8 years in the state Senate before that.
Amazing. Amazing, and congratulations to that. Well, maybe a quick on Vietnam. How many years were you there, and describe one of the experiences you've had that was a great learning experience for you.
Where was that?
In Vietnam.
Oh, I was there for a very short period of time. I was wounded in Vietnam about 6.5 months after I got there, and the wounds were serious enough where I was sent back to the United States. I spent some time in the hospital in Vietnam, and then a hospital in Japan, and then the hospital, a couple of hospitals here in California. And then when I recuperated, I went on. I still had some time left in the service, and I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and was an instructor in the Army's airborne school. So I taught people how to jump out of airplanes. Oh. And I'm one of those people who, notwithstanding the fact that I was wounded and served in combat, I think I got a lot more out of the military than the military got out of me. It was very much a learning experience. I matured a lot. I was, before I went into service, I thought I was smarter than my parents and my teachers and most other adults. And once I got in the military, I realized that my folks and my teachers were a lot smarter than I'd given them credit for. So I came back with my eyes a little wider, opened a little wider than when I first joined. And that's why when I came back, I went to work in the wine industry, and I went to school on the side. I went to Napa College, and then later transferred to a four-year college.
Well done. So it teaches us humility, of course, and teaching who we really are, right? So on that note, how do you think today the wine world can contribute in a bigger way to the dialogue, the tensions, and all that we see in the world at large? Is there any message, any suggestion you have for all of us who are wine lovers and passionate that we could do on a greater scale?
Well, as you know, I try and incorporate wine in much of what I do. Yeah. You know that I have dinners at my house in Washington. I try and bring my colleagues together. I have bipartisan dinners at my house, Democrats and Republicans, trying to figure out how to know each other and work better together. And clearly, the wine community is a big part of that experience and that building of bridges that I try and do in Washington. But you know, the wine community in our district and across the country, it's no different. It's a big economic player in the country. It's a community that employs a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're good jobs. They pay well. The industry pays a lot in taxes, which goes to fund all the things that our government does. And I don't think there is another industry that is as charitable as the wine community. There's, as I said earlier, there's not an important need that surfaces that the wine community doesn't step up and help. We see it right here. We see it with Auction Napa. You go over to Sonoma, to the Sonoma wine auction. Go to Lake County, to the Lake County wine auction. These are people donating their product, donating their time, and often the same people who are bidding on the lots that they just donated. And all that money is plowed right back into the community. If it's healthcare, education, all the things that we care so much about. You know, and you know this because this Saturday is an event that this will be the third year that I've done it. And it's one that I sponsored after that tragic shooting at the Veterans Home. And I did this Rock the Ride for Gun Violence Prevention. And it's after you either walk, run, or bicycle, you meet for a big lunch, and it's burritos and bubbles. And you have always contributed to the bubbles. And this weekend is the event. And because of COVID, we're doing it virtually. So people across the country will be able to participate, and they'll be able to finish their walk, their run, or their bicycle ride with a great glass of bubbly. Well, it's just another example of everything that the community does. If it's building the clinic, Olay Health Clinic, if it's contributing to the hospitals in the area, if it's helping feed hungry people, they're always there.
So on that note, Tom, John, you do a lot of phenomenal events, not only here, but in DC. So you just alluded to it, Mike, on the issue of the great events you're doing in DC. Can you elaborate? Because thanks to you, one of the second floor of Buena Vista has all your great menus that all our guests are enjoying, and it's absolutely magical. So tell us about what those events entitle. You said they're bipartisan, but what you all talk about, and what does wine do as an effect for discussions?
Well, I do a couple of different events. I do dinners to fundraiser dinners to help me get the money I need to run for election. And that's always around wine. I do it at my dinner table at my house. We have wine, we have good food. I also do the bipartisan events, and they can range anywhere from the wine caucus events. The co-chair of the wine caucus lives just down the street from me. So I had him over for dinner I told him, I said, you invite 3 Republicans, I'll invite 3 Democrats. I do a Senate dinner every year where we have a bipartisan group of senators come in and have dinner. Doris Matsui, my colleague from Sacramento, she and I sponsor a dinner series, and we probably do that 4 or 5 times a year, where we'll have a dinner at my house, always have wine from the district, but with different people, different members of Congress, to talk about issues that are before us, because everybody's got to eat. You got to have dinner, and why would you have dinner without a glass of wine? And why not all sit down together so we can get some work done while we're doing it?
That's right. Have you noticed that wine has a special effect, that it brings people together and the ideas are more fluid and the agreements are maybe faster sometimes?
Well, I think wine helps. As I say, it's the three main ingredients. You have good wine, good food, and good people. Put them all together, and what can go wrong?
I love it. So, Mike, tell everyone as well the great causes you're involved with in DC, because you've been leading a lot of groups. So, give us an idea of the 3 or 4 various organizations you're involved with within the government to really help things move forward.
Well, you alluded to it already. I'm the chairman of the Task Force for Gun Violence Prevention.
Yeah.
I'm a gun owner. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I think that where there's things that we can do to make sure that people who are criminals or dangerously mentally ill don't get or make it tougher for them to get a gun. So I lead that effort. I'm also the chairman of the Select Revenue Subcommittee on the Ways and Means Committee. So we write all the tax laws. If there's a tax law that's out there, that comes through our committee. And the big one that I'm working on right now, and it will be introduced on Thursday, is a green energy bill to promote renewable energy. And that bill in its entirety will be part of the Democrats' infrastructure bill that will be debated in Congress in the next month. So that's a pretty big lift. And then I've always been interested in the environment and healthcare. So I'm on the healthcare subcommittee, and my big push is access to quality, affordable healthcare. And I do a lot of work in the area of telemedicine. So you can be treated in one location by a medical professional in a different location. Saves money, saves lives, incredibly important. And I've always been interested in our environment. I've been very fortunate to be able to protect in perpetuity over 1 million acres of land in our district over my time.
1 million acres.
And I think that's important. We need to protect these beautiful areas, be able to pass them on to future generations. But the big push right now, Jean-Charles, as you know, it's all about COVID and about the economic fallout from COVID. And so we're working really hard on that. We just House passed this last bill, the HEROES Act, to make sure that we're able to provide help to state and local governments so they don't have to fire people, which would further hurt our economy, provide more money for health care related to COVID, and to provide more help for small businesses and their employees. And that bill's over in the Senate, and we need to get the Senate to pass it and get it to the president for his signature.
Well, that's amazing. Congratulations. So many different activities. That's very impressive. On that note, we're talking Napa, where you were born, and obviously a land you know better than any other. But what about Sonoma? I suggest we pour the other wine you have, which really represents
I got it.
best. Well, this other wine is from an old winery as well, named Deloach Vineyards, that we were very fortunate to bring into our collection of wineries. Great people like yourself. Mr. Deloach was like your son, a firefighter, and he had a dream to make wine, and he started wine. And since we've acquired Deloach, we turn it into fully organic and biodynamic. So I would love your 3 words on this vineyard, which is a great, family originally from Japan. And besides describing the wine, I'd love for you as well to tell us, whether it's Napa, Sonoma, or your involvement within immigration policies and where we're going, and all that you're doing on that note, which is very important, specifically for me as a Frenchman coming to the United States and loving this land.
Jean-Charles, I taste this wine and I pick up the very distinct flavor of blueberries in this wine. And So I guess with the blue and blueberries and the fact that you're organic and biodynamic, I would say this is a very liberal wine.
Very free spirited. I totally agree. We believe in liberty, freedom, democracy, and more, and diversity and hope and unity, for sure. And you know, interestingly enough, we say those words. It was very, very interesting. The owners of that vineyard are great friends today. When I first met them, it was a lady marrying a Japanese man, loving the environment as many Japanese, and she came from Colorado. They had these beautiful 12-acre vineyards. We sat around the table. They did not know organic or biodynamic, and we luckily inspired them. The following year they applied, and 3 years later they became fully organic and biodynamic. And they're really living the dream, because a wine like that is getting amazing accolades. Not because we're good winemakers, because we do the obvious for Mother Nature, which I think is what you've done with your 1,000,000 acres of preservation land and the belief of that.
Well, you know, the other thing, thank you for doing the organic efforts. You know, I grow grapes, and I grow grapes in Lake County. And Jan and I made the decision when we bought the property. It was barren land. The first part was barren land. The second part had pear trees, but it had always been farmed with chemicals. And we decided that we were going to grow our grapes organically, and we have. And we have 20 acres, and all Sauvignon Blanc. And you know, when we bought that property, we always talk about how there was nothing there. It was bare. There weren't lizards, there weren't snakes, there weren't birds. You know, it was just bare land. It had been farmed. It had all been prunes for years, or pears for years. And we were just up there yesterday. We spent the day. That was my Father's Day. Jan was off, so we went up and we cleared brush along the creek, and we saw raptors, we saw red-tailed hawks, we saw heron, we saw lizards every place, rabbits, quail. It's really, I think, has really improved the area. But I say congratulations to you, because it's not cheap. It's you could make a lot more money growing your grapes the regular way. So whenever you put restrictions on it, be it biodynamic or organic, there's costs associated with that. You've got to do insect pest control differently. You've got to do weed control differently. So it's a real commitment. So thank you for doing that.
Well, we all are committed to our Mother Nature, who is giving us the elixir of God, the best gift ever, the grapes. Well, talking about grapes, you make it as well an incredible olive oil that we use at home and we promote proudly, and we're going to need actually more because the inventory is almost out. So,
you know, I didn't know that you were going to bring that up.
Here it is. I love it. Well, it is the bright spot, as you know, of the shelf of the famous Oakville grocery in both Napa and Sonoma, and we're really delighted to have it. So tell us a little bit about that passion for olives you have.
Well, you know, growing up in the Napa Valley, there were a lot of olive trees. And I had an uncle that every year he would come and get me and have me help him pick olives, and he would cure those olives. Growing up in an Italian household, there was a lot of olive oil. We cooked with it. My grandmother taught me how to cook. She used a lot of olive oil. So it's always been part of my life. And then in probably 1992, 1993, my brother and I went to Italy, and our wives went to Italy, and we visited the village where my grandfather was born.
Which was?
And it was, pardon me?
Which part of Italy originally?
Ronco. It's about 45 minutes up in the hills from Milano.
Oh,
and
cool.
Beautiful, up by Lago Maggiore, beautiful area. And it was so much like the Napa Valley, so much like St. Helena, where I was born. There were vineyards, there were Every driveway was lined with olive trees. It was just gorgeous. And I knew right then that when we developed this land and planted our vineyard, olives were going to be part of it. So we planted the olives largely for aesthetic purposes, and they're just gorgeous. And then we started making olive oil with the olives. And again, talk about something that's not a moneymaker. That's an interesting part of the whole thing. But the olive oil is just fantastic.
Yeah, phenomenal. And it's part of our lifestyle. So on that note, because I know you're busy today on the 4th of July, so what fuels, Mike, your incredible passion? Because every time I look at your eyes, as I am right now, at a distance, sadly, but I see this illumination, I see those sparkles, and I've known you for over 12 years now, and you haven't changed, on the opposite, more driven, more passionate, even more than ever. So advise everyone listening about passion and what drives yours, and give an advice to all the people who are evolving in life today and changing course.
Well, that's a big lift.
Well, you can do it.
We're only on this earth for so long. None of us are getting out of here alive. And we're so fortunate we're blessed to be in the area where we live. And I just think it should be incumbent upon everyone to do everything you can to make sure that the world is a better place when you leave, and that everybody has an opportunity to get ahead. And while you're doing it, have fun doing it. Because we've got each other. We should enjoy each other. We should enjoy the food, the wine, the friends, and we should all try and give back a little bit. Try and contribute something to make our world a better place because we were here.
So that drives your passion, of course, is people sharing and obviously keeping building for the future.
It's the kids, it's those coming behind us. So that's why you work to preserve 1 million acres. So future generations will be able to hike, be able to go duck hunting, whatever they might want to do. That's why we work to make sure that our coast is so beautiful and pristine. So the next generation will see that. The next generation will see the beautiful, majestic redwood trees that we were able to see. That the next generation will be able to farm and grow incredible grapes to make fantastic wine. And if we mess up the environment, and that's a big challenge in itself, because we're faced with a huge challenge in regard to climate change. That's why that renewable energy legislation of mine that's going to be in the infrastructure bill is so important. If we mess that one up, it's over. We really have to be able to preserve what we have to be able to pass it on to our children and their grandchildren.
Well, I love the old saying coming from Native American Wapo Indians, in fact, because, pre-1826, a lot of Napa was called Wapo. And they have a great saying, then take off your shoes and caress with your feet the skin of Mother Nature. And I agree with you, we pass it on, and we need to pass it on in a better stage than we left it. So very critical. So now, last question, Mike, you cannot escape that one. And I know you have speeches and attendance to give today on this beautiful 4th of July. Fabulous wife, Janet, that we all love, and a great inspiration, and serving not only our community, but our health. 2 wonderful children as well, themselves serving. A great example you are for California, for the United States, and the world at large. Would you be willing to share one of your dreams that you've never shared, and then one of your secrets? So 2 questions in one to conclude our wonderful time together.
Well, I don't know what if I have that dream. I dream that my grandchildren will all grow up to be able to be successful in what they want to do. I still, and Jan and I talk about this, when we retire, we want to see the United States in its entirety. We would like to go from one corner of the country to the other. And as far as secrets, you know, I've been in elected office now for 30 years, and you don't have very many secrets when you're in elected office. So I don't know that there's anything that I can share with you on that one.
Well, you've been amazing, Mike, and we want to thank you so much for being with us on this lovely 4th of July. I'm delighted as well because, you know, our JCB Live goes beyond boundaries. You've been a big fan of immigration and the world at large. You've been serving on so many world committees that we didn't talk about. And many of my friends in France and in Europe will listen to this and will be very proud to hear such a great American that you represent, of your stature and charisma to serve the US, but more importantly, I would say the world at large. And what you've done for Napa Sonoma is so commanding. So I raise my glass to this great nation that makes amazing people like you to lead the world at large.
Jean-Charles, thank you. Happy 4th of July. Have a wonderful day with the family, and let's work really hard to make sure we continue to be the greatest country in the world.
We count on you, we believe in you, and we're there. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Yes, Janet.